As you guys know, anytime I purchase a unit for one of my buyers, whether it's a Toronto condo or a regular old home, I usually try to negotiate for 1 to 3 buyers visits for my clients. It's very key. You can get a lot done before the closing period, whether the closing period is 30 days or the closing period is 3 months. And you know what? I made 2 recent purchases in the month of November that are closing in December, just in time for the holidays. And for these purchases, obviously I have to go along with my buyers for the buyer's visit. So I thought, why not record these buyer's visits for you guys in today's edition of the Toronto real estate vlog. People like the first one where I recorded my downtown Toronto condo buyer showings. And for this one, I'm going to be recording the buyer's visits. And thank you to my clients for allowing me to do this, because I'm always very careful to ask before I do any recording for any of the transactions I do, and you know, to put it out there on this channel or other social media platforms. Ultimately, obviously, the comfort of my clients is very key, and a lot of clients are not comfortable with this type of stuff, so I don't do the recording for those clients. So since I have 2 buyer's visits this week, the first one, we're going to go to Scarborough, a unit I purchased in waterfront Scarborough. We're going to see that one today. And in 2 days, I have a buyer's visit for a Toronto condo unit that I purchased downtown. So we're going to see that one as well. All right, guys, so let's head towards the first buyer's visit today. So it's a unit I purchased in southern Scarborough by the water near the bluffs. And with Scarborough condos, you can really go wrong if you don't pick the right community or neighborhood. Luckily here, we managed to get a unit right by the water in a really good sought after community within Scarborough. That's at the same time kind of affordable, right? It's not quite the beaches, but it's pretty close to the beaches. So anyways, I'm gonna get into my car and go do that first buyer's visit today. I'll try to show you the unit for you guys quickly. And then we have another buyer's visit later this week in downtown Toronto near Lakeshore and Bathurst for a unit I purchased there. So anyways, let's kick it off. All right, guys, so we just got here at the condo. I'm waiting for my clients. Here, maybe you can see a bit of the condo behind me. And once again, it's by the water, it's close to a couple of schools, close to most things you need in terms of grocery stores, drugstores, very close to the TTC as well. Let's go sign in and check out the inside before my clients arrive. So here we are inside the unit just before my clients come. And to give you basic background, this unit is a 2-bedroom plus 2 washrooms. We purchased it in the low 600s. I'll probably make a what your money can buy for this unit as well, so to go through further in detail in terms of, you know, the background of this transaction, how it came about, and what it says about the Toronto and GTA real estate market. However, with buyer's visits, you always want to see what the status of the property is. Of course, when we first came to see this property, it was a little bit more properly staged. Now, of course, since the transaction has occurred and it's before the closing, there are some moving boxes around and such. That's typically very normal, right? Because once the transaction happens, the person who's living there, as is the case here, well, they're going to start packing their things slowly and steadily to move. You're going to see some stuff out and about, but in this case, obviously, this unit is in pretty clean condition, I would say, still. So stuff like this is very normal, right? Obviously, the seller is about to move. And, you know, in terms of the unit itself, as I said, 2 bedrooms, 2 washrooms. You have the main entrance there. As I said, I'll make a more in-depth video. My clients in this case are first-time home buyers, right? So they just want to get involved in the market. Some were safe, some were very family-friendly, and this neighborhood right by the water near the bluffs in Scarborough. You know, it's one of the better, if not the best neighborhoods in the Scarborough area. With buyer visits, obviously there's a lot of purposes to buyer's visits, but one of the main purposes is you want to see if there's any damages to the property, get measurements, you want to run some of the appliances. That's why I typically negotiate for up to 3 buyer's visits, right? As I mentioned previously. So we have ample amount of time to do anything we want prior to closing. The more access we have to the property, the better. Maybe in the next buyer's visit, I'll tell you what actually usually happens if there's something wrong with the property during a buyer's visit. All right, guys, so now we're here downtown. I'm parked outside of the building, 38 Newsy. Once again, that is the building. I've already recorded a video on this building in the past for my episodes of What Your Money Can Buy, that series, because I already purchased a unit earlier this year in this building. Obviously, we're gonna go inside and see the unit, and you know, I'll explain a little bit more during the buyer's visit. However, one thing that always catches my attention when I'm near this building is something I'm about to show you in a second, because this building is at Lakeshore and Bathurst, and the building itself is decently close to the Gardiner. Now, luckily, none of the units are directly exposed to the Gardiner Expressway. Some of the units, you do see the Gardiner Expressway in the corner, in the periphery, diagonally speaking,
but it's not one of those buildings where you have some units that are very close to the Gardiner Expressway. But luckily there's one building in between this building and the Gardiner. So yes, walking wise is only 30 seconds to 45 seconds away, but none of the units, once again, have very close views of the Gardiner. Why do I mention that? Well, because take a look at this, right? Every time I'm here, I am taken aback by the proximity of this building I'm about to show you to the Gardiner, right? So right now you see the building behind me, that is 38 Anuzi right there, right? That's the building we're gonna go inside and do the buyer's visit in. And this is the Gardiner Expressway, as you guys can see. And what always catches my attention is this building, which is another building. And look how close, look how crazy close these units are to the Gardiner Expressway. Now, I actually made a TikTok on this that kind of went mini viral, and I mentioned in the TikTok that it's so close you can touch it with a broomstick. You can stick a broomstick out of the unit and touch one of the cars. Obviously I was exaggerating, it's not, you know, that close, but it's not far. I mean, look how close these units are. And that always catches my attention because I always think of it from, you know, a perspective of representing buyers or even tenants. Like, if you buy a unit in there, you might be able to buy it a bit cheaper than other units. However, it's gonna greatly impact resale value when you wanna sell it down the line. Put aside resale value, just think about everyday living in one of those units. The noise issue, the lack of privacy with cars, you know, always going by your window, and think about the air quality. The air quality is probably really bad. You can't be that close to the Gardiner Expressway. All right, guys, so now we're inside the unit. This is the unit in question right here. And obviously, once again, I'll do a longer video on the unit, telling you about how the transaction came about, what it says about the market, tell you a little bit more about the building and my What Your Money Can Buy series. However, quickly put, here, right now, we're here for the buyer's visit. In my previous buyer's visit, I explained why buyer's visits are important. In this, before my client comes, let me quickly tell you what happens when you find something wrong during a buyer's visit, because there's several options at your disposal. So let's say it's about 5 days out of closing and you're on a buyer's visit and you all of a sudden see a hole in the living room that wasn't there, or the chandeliers have collapsed, right? That wasn't the state of the property when you submitted an offer and purchased it, and there's only 5 days until closing. What are you gonna do? What's gonna happen? So in that case, there's usually 3 options at your disposal. Option number 1 is obviously you can go to the seller and ask them to fix it at their own expense. Of course, here, this is where I come into play. It's my job to go to the seller, convince them that it's an issue, convince them that they have to fix it at their own expense. Option number 2 is you go to the seller and you ask for an abatement. What is an abatement? An abatement is saying, hey, the problem that exists inside the property, like the chandeliers have collapsed, it's gonna take about $1,000 to fix. So instead of you fixing it at your own expense, I'll fix it at my expense, but we're gonna reduce the purchase price via amendment of the property equal to the amount it's gonna cost to fix it. So basically you're reducing the price $1,000 and you're fixing it out of your own pocket. And then obviously option 3, which is the trickiest option, is walking away from the deal. But of course that gets into litigation and it has to be a very serious issue for you to be able to push for that and for the seller to not fight you on it, right? The seller's not gonna let you go easily, right? They're not gonna let your deposit go easily. Of these 3 options, I typically obviously recommend the second one, which is the abatement. And let me tell you why. Because if there's an issue with the property, now in this case, we're at a buyer's visit inside a condo, right? And with a condo, there's not many serious things that can be wrong. This is usually the bigger issue with houses, when, you know, the foundation can have issues. There could be molds in the attic. There could be a crack you didn't see if you didn't do an inspection. With an abatement, you can make sure the job is done properly. Like in terms of you select the contractors, you see the results. And at the same time, you're technically not really paying for it because the purchase price has been reduced equal to the amount you're paying the contractors to fix the issue. Whereas with the first option, when you ask for the seller to fix it at their own expense, you really don't know if they picked the proper people, if the proper people did the right job or not. And even if they did anything, they could just get you a certificate just to satisfy you and they didn't end up really doing much. But this obviously comes down to the transaction and the particular details with that transaction. It's not a set rule, obviously. However,
typically I would recommend the second option. And if you're wondering, we purchased this unit for $645,000. This is a 1+1, 1 washroom, 1 parking at 38 in Newsy. This is my second purchase in this unit. We managed to buy this unit after this unit had a very hard time selling 3 times in a row. And that was the market conditions in November when we bought it. At the time of recording of this video, it is December 15th, I think, close to closing. And we managed to take advantage of the fact that they had a hard time selling and get it for a pretty good price. Units like this were selling $100,000 more when we purchased it. I'll explain a little bit more about that in my upcoming video when I do a video on this unit for what your money can buy. Anyways, my client is almost here. This was the second buyer's visit this week. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Hopefully this vlog was informative. I don't think it was entertaining, but hopefully it was informative. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.